Hi folks, this is Karim Rao from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Terminator lab. This is the video number 11. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been still working with automating WSOS deployment. We deployed WSOS with all of its aspects. Okay, we have configured, or this deployment has configured WSOS different configuration, different updates to be approved, approving automatic rule or automatic approval rule, creating different WSOS computer groups. All of this we have discussed in the previous video, which was the practical part of the deployment, because the deployment or we have discussed two parts in how to deploy WSOS server automatically using a script. First, we have discussed the script theoretically, every line in the script, what does it do, and then we have another video showing the script in action or in a practical way. So we have done this in two videos. Today we will begin, or we will begin a new phase in the lab, which is the migration. So we have done a lot of things. Let me show you all the graph of the network. If you go there, we can see that we have already created a domain, skynet.internal. We have two servers, sknhqdc0112, which is the primary domain controller, and its IP number is 192.168.1.6. And then we have another server, which is sknhqdc0212, which is additional domain controller. It's also a DHCP, a file server, and a WSOS, and the IP number is 192.168.1.7. Okay, these two servers in a domain called skynet.internal. So we need before that, these two servers have an operating system of Windows Server 2012 R2. After doing all of this in the previous 10 videos, or let's say 11 videos, okay, we need to migrate these two servers from Windows Server 2012 R2 to Windows Server 2022. We need to migrate them all of the services we needed to migrate to be migrated from Windows Server 2012 R2 to Windows Server 2022. Okay, let me show you a little bit of a graph here that will discuss it. So what we will do, we will create a new virtual machine which will be named sknhqdc0122, and then this will be a primary domain controller. Okay, or it should be a primary domain controller, but first we will make it as an additional domain controller. Then we will migrate the primary domain controller, okay, to this additional domain controller, and then promote the server to be a primary domain controller. Okay, so maybe it's a little bit confusing, so let me explain it further. This server will be an additional domain controller. Okay, then what we will do, we will migrate, or we will transfer the roles of the primary domain controller to this additional domain controller. And with migrating the roles of the primary domain controller to the newly additional domain controller, which have Windows Server 2012 R2 installed on it, this means that it will be the new primary domain controller. Okay, so to make any additional domain controller to be a primary domain controller, we need to transfer something called Vesmo roles, or I think Vesmo role is something very famous. Let's have a look, or what is the Vesmo roles. Let me show you all. Vesmo, okay, Vesmo roles. Okay, so let's see here, what is phase models. Okay, are a set of operational rules in Active Directory that serve as custom domain controller jobs when regular data transport and update methods are insufficient. Anyway, so let me say that in very short terms. Okay, Vesmo roles are very unique roles that it is related to the primary domain controller. If these roles is transferred to another domain controller, especially if it is an additional domain controller, then the transferred roles to this additional domain controller will make it as a primary domain controller. So the additional will be transfer, or it will be changed from additional domain controller to primary domain controller. So let's turn again to the graph. Here we will create a new virtual machine. It will be an additional domain controller, and then we will transfer the Vismo roles from the primary domain controller to this additional domain controller. Okay, and after that this will be turned to the primary domain controller. Okay, and it will have an IP address of 192.168.1.8. Okay, this is the old server, this is the new server, and then again we will create a second virtual machine which will be our uh, additional domain controller. We have already an additional domain controller which is having Windows Server 2012 R2 installed on it. We will make another additional domain controller, but it will have Windows Server 2012 R2 installed on it. Okay, and we will just depromote or demote this additional domain controller. We will demote it, and this will be the only additional domain controller in the domain. Okay, so remember, this server, it's not only an additional domain controller, it is a WSOS, DHCP, and file server. Okay, these three roles, we will create a third virtual machine, and we will transfer these roles to this new virtual machine. So we have three virtual machines. The first one will be the primary domain controller after migrating it, or migrating the old domain controller or the old primary domain controller. This will be the primary domain controller, and then we will have an additional domain controller, and we will have one server that will act as a file server, WSOS, DHCP, and in the future we will have Windows deployment server and Microsoft deployment toolkit. Okay, this IP address will be 192.168.1.5. So these are the three servers. These are the new three virtual machines, and these are the old, or these are the two old virtual machines. Okay, if you go there, okay, this is the graph. The new one will act like this. We will have three servers. Okay, this is the new primary domain controller, and this is the new additional domain controller, and this will be the DHCP server, WSOS server, file server, Windows deployment server in the future, and MDT. So this is basically what we will do. We will migrate the primary domain controller to be a new primary domain controller on Windows Server 2012 R2. We will transfer, or we will not transfer, we will demote this server from being an additional domain controller and join another virtual machine which has Windows Server 2012, 2022 or 2022 on it. This will be the new additional domain controller, and another server will act as the HCP, WSOS file server, WDS, and MDT. Okay, remember, we have done this, or we will create the three new virtual machines by using Packer Hashicorp. We have done this before in the previous virtual machines. Okay, the old virtual machines. Remember, the Packer Hashicorp will work with using a JSON file that will check two devices, an ISO file and a floppy disk. The ISO file will make an unattended installation of Windows. This is the first part of the JSON file, and the second part, it will go to a floppy disk that contains some scripts that will automate installation of certain softwares like VirtualBox guest additions, and some scripts that will automate installation of some software. Okay, so this is basically what we will do today. What we will do, we will create the third virtual machine which will have Windows Server 2022 on it, and it will act as an additional domain controller until we migrate the primary domain controller roles, or we transfer the Vismo roles from the primary domain controller to this additional domain controller. Okay, let's see, and I need to show you all the Packer file. This is the Packer file for this Windows Server 2022 virtual machine. Here is some of the setting. This is the ISO, or this is the Windows Server 2022 ISO file. that we will install the Windows from it, and this is the name of the virtual machine, and this is some let me show you all. This is some setting related to the virtual machine. Okay, this is the memory and a couple of things. So this section from VirtualBox until this section contains a lot of things: the memory, the memory, the PC, a lot of things. Actually, we have discussed this before. So this is for the VirtualBox if you are using VirtualBox, and this is for the VMware if you are using Virtual or VM Workstation Pro or vSphere. Okay, and these are the setting of the virtual machine. Okay, so these are the setting of the virtual machine and the builders or the type of software or hypervisor that you are using, and at the end we have the section for the scripts that will be installed, or the automation of some software installation. So for example, this script will automate the installation of VirtualBox guest editions. This is script. And then we have a script called setup1. This script will do some changes in the Windows Server 2022. For example, it will hide the server manager, or it will not make it auto load when you log in, and some other things. Actually, it will do some changes to make the Windows Server 2022 more easy to handle and more faster. Okay, and we can see here, for example, we will use the Windows update. So we have a script here to update the Windows. I didn't use this with Windows Server 2012 R2 because it was not working with it, because the PowerShell on Windows Server 2012 R2 is PowerShell 3, and this needs PowerShell 5 to work. Okay, so we will use this script, and there is a couple of things here to restart. So we'll make an update and then make a restart and then make an update again, and at the end we'll make another restart, and at the end we'll disable auto login, because most of these scripts will be installed or to be implemented after logging in to the Windows. We will automate, or we will auto login to the Windows using a certain username and password we have provided before in the JSON file. After that, after finishing all of this, we need to disable the auto login feature, and at the end, before disabling the auto login, we need to clean up. So this installation of Windows updates will have certain files on the hard disk. These files need to be cleaned. Okay, so this is basically what the script will do. So we have discussed this before many times. Okay, so this is the script. So it will, what it will do, this script, it will, let me show you all. This will install Windows Server 2022 on a virtual machine, which will be, let me show you all, which will be this virtual machine, and this is the name, and it will be an additional domain controller. Okay, if you go there to the graph, this is the one that you are going to install today. Okay, this is will be this. It is not still the PDC, but it is will be an additional domain controller, and we have discussed before the way the Packer works. Okay, so let's go and see the video how we will do this. I think maybe I have discussed everything here. Okay, yes, let me go and see how this will be done. So we will open, let me have it like that. We'll make it like this. So we will open the PowerShell 7, and then we will run a certain command. Okay, we need first to go to uh, a folder that will contain the Packer Hashicorp exe file. Okay, we need to go there. So it's in D folder named Packer 7, and then we will tell him to go to a certain folder, okay, that contains the Packer Hashicorp exe file. Let me let me show you all. So the Packer Hashicorp file, this exe file, it is in the D partition. We need to go and run the Packer Hashicorp from it. Okay, so let's go and see how this will be done. We will open it, and then we will open the Packer folder, and then the subfolder, and then we tell him to dire we need to run this file. Okay, so this is a command. Okay, Packer exe file build VirtualBox, and this is the file, or the JSON file I have showed you all from a couple of minutes. Okay, let me show you the JSON file. Okay, so the JSON file, this is the JSON file. Okay, we go there, this was the JSON file. Okay, here it is. This is the one. Okay, so let's continue and see. Just a moment. Let's continue and see how this will work. Okay, so now the Packer Hashicorp will begin reading the JSON file, which will redirect him to check the Windows Server 2022 ISO file that contains the operating system. It's checking or it's making a checksum, okay, on it to see if it is an original DVD downloaded from the Microsoft website. So now it is verifying the ISO DVD or ISO image, and then it will begin working or creating the virtual machine on a VirtualBox, and then begin making the auto unattended installation of the Windows. Okay, Windows Server 2022. So it will take a little bit of time. We can go a little bit further because it will take some time. You can like this again. So let's go. It will take a couple of minutes because it is checking the checksum of the ISO image. Now it is creating the virtual machine, creating an SSS connection between Packer Hashicorp and the virtual machine created. So this is the RAM, the CPU, the firmware, okay, the DVD added to the virtual machine. Now it is starting the virtual machine, the VirtualBox virtual machine. So this we have done this before when we were using or installing Windows Server 2012 R2. Now boot from the DVD, and then the auto unattended installation of Windows will begin. So it will take a little bit of time. Setup is starting. We will not do anything. We will not put any input in this installation. We are not prompted to add any or to provide any input. So now it is installing the operating system. You can see now it has copied the installation files. Now it is installing the Windows operating system, and it is waiting for the WinRM service to work on the Windows so it can communicate with it, or the Packer Hashicorp can communicate with the Windows using the WinRM. Okay, so now it is getting files ready for installation. And if we pause the video, now it is installing features and then installing updates. So I think we will pause the video again so to pass this phase real quickly. So I think we can do it like this again. Okay, let's wait. Now it is finished installing updates, and then it will restart after maybe 10 seconds. Yes, we will leave it. It will restart automatically after 5 seconds, and then it will continue the configuring or the installation of Windows Server 2022. And then after that it will continue the installation of Windows Server 2022, and it will use some scripts to add certain services and configure different things, okay, to make the installation of the Windows Server 2022 more easy. Okay, so now it's getting devices ready. We can pause the video. We're getting devices ready. Okay, I think we can pause it real quickly actually. Okay, so now it has logged in, so we can go now. Then it begins logging in or auto logging in and complete the installation of Windows. We have an auto login feature, and the user is which we were logged in with on the Windows, it is administrator, and the password is Packer. This was defined in the JSON file, so we can pass this real quickly. There is a lot of things that will actually be running. Okay, so here something's running in the background, and then we can see that we have internet connection. Okay, there is some PowerShell scripts running in the background. We have discussed this before. Some of them will configure the WinRM service. Okay, and after configuring the WinRM, Packer Hashicorp can communicate with the Windows operating system. And then after that, after finishing all of this, we will log into the Windows and then begin the different scripts. We will set up some things or some registry keys that will be uh, added or configured on the Windows Server 2022, and then we will make the Windows update, or a script will install Windows on the Windows Server 2022 operating system, and a lot of things actually. So we can pass this real quickly. Okay, so now what you do, it is already adding a certain feature. I think here he have added NetFrame 3.5. I think one of the things, so he is adding some features. I think here he is adding NetFrame 3.5. Okay, so he added it. This also it is done using some script, and then it will begin cleaning up. Okay, and then it will restart the machine, and then it will auto login, and then it will begin uh, configuring or installing the VirtualBox additions, okay, or guest additions, and then it will begin installing Windows updates, and then after that it will clean up the Windows updates, the normal process. So we can pass this real quickly. Okay, now it will make a restart. Okay, it will make a restart, and then we can see it has logged into the Windows, and then it will begin working or installing VirtualBox editions, okay, or guest editions. Okay, here it is. This is the script. It will begin installing VirtualBox guest additions. This is the script. It will take a little bit of time. I think we can pause this also. It will take a little bit of time. Okay, so I can see here that it is beginning, or it will begin installation of the VirtualBox, installing VirtualBox guest additions. This is like VMware tools. It will help you to communicate with the virtual machine more efficiently in VirtualBox. It will install drivers, okay, to make the VirtualBox work more efficiently, and then it have finished installation of VirtualBox guest edition. Now it's going to another script which is called setup. Setup will do a couple of things to the Windows Server 2022. It will add some registry keys. It will make the server manager not loaded automatically. when we log in. A couple of things. This is a script that is done by certain user or the one that has uploaded it on GitHub. This to make the Windows Server 2022 more efficient, okay, and more faster, okay. I have discussed this before. So now this is the second script that will be implemented. And then it will restart the machine, and then the next script it will begin updating the Windows, okay. So it will make a restart to the machine, and then it will auto login, and then it will begin the Windows updates, okay. So these are all scripts done in order, okay. The first script to install VirtualBox guest editions, and then the second script to make some registry setting to the Windows Server 2022, and then the third script is to make Windows updates. It will take some time, so it is restarting. I think we can pause it real quickly. So now this is the Windows updates. It will make Windows update. It will take a little bit of time, and we will see it will download updates first, or approve them first, and then download them, and then install them. So let's see. Here we can see that it will begin starting the Windows update installation. Let's go further. Here we can see beginning down accepting the updates, and then downloading the updates, and then the last phase is to install it. We can see here that there is an update for the NetFrame 3.5. We have added this before, so this is a cumulative update for NetFrame 3.5. Okay, now it is downloading the update. We can go further, still downloading the update, and then it begin the installation of the updates. Okay, so all of this is done using this script. Okay, and it will make a restart after that and repeat the script again to make sure that there are no pending updates, or there is no new updates. Okay, so now it is restarting the machine. Okay, it will take some time, so it is restarting the machine, working on updates. It will take some time. Okay, we will pause the video. Okay, it will take some time. We can pause this real quickly. Again, 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 again. So now it is restarted, the machine is restarted, and then again the same script, it is run again. Okay, so we can see the same script is done again, and we will see that there are a couple of updates still need to be downloaded and accepted. If we go further, let me show you all here. Starting Windows update installation again. If we wait for a couple of minutes, two updates. Oh, we can see if we can go further. Windows update, if you can go further again, we can see there is two updates. So they are accepted and downloaded and then installed. Okay, and at the end it will disable auto login. So it has finished already. All of the things related to the Windows, we need to disable the auto login feature we have used, and after that it will clean up all of the Windows installation files from the machine, because this will take space from the hard disk. You should do this regularly on every machine that install Windows updates from Microsoft website or from your WSOS server. Okay, this will take a large space from the hard disk of the machine, okay, or the PC, even the server. Okay, so it will take some time. Disable the auto login feature, and then after that it will begin cleaning up. Okay, so we will go further, disable auto login. I've already have done this. Okay, so it will take some time. Then it will begin the last script, which is the cleanup script, that will clean up the Windows Update installation files. Okay, so it will take some time. Okay, if we go further, so now it is running the cleanup script. Okay, and after finishing the cleanup script, it will shut down the machine and begin exporting it. Okay, so we can see here now it is cleaning all of the Windows Update installation files, and at the end it will shut down the machine and then export it. Okay, so it will take some time. Now it is gracefully halting the virtual machine. Now it is shutting down the machine, and then after that it will begin exporting the machine. Okay, okay, it will take some time. Okay, let me see here. So now what it have done, let me go further. So now it is gracefully shutting down the machine and then exporting the virtual machine. Okay, it will take about 1 hour, all the installation process, 1 hour and 47 minutes. Now we need to go and import the virtual machine again and begin configuring it. Okay, so we need to import the virtual machine, and then we needed to put it on our network, and then joining it to the domain, and then promoting it to be an additional domain controller, and then at the end we will migrate the primary domain controller to this additional domain controller. Okay, so here I am adding, or I am importing the virtual machine I have already created. Now this is the new virtual machine. Okay, this is the setting of it. Okay, and then we will finish. So we'll have the new virtual machine, which will be an additional domain controller. So you are importing it, and then we need to begin adding some setting, or to configure some setting. We need to add another network card to make network teaming. We need to add an additional hard disk to make it as a data partition. Okay, now we are increasing the display RAM, so we can make full screen, or we can make the virtual machine full screen. This should be not super Vega to be Vega, because this will do some problems. Okay, and then we need to add another hard disk, and to add another network card. Okay, so now we need to revise the setting. This is Windows 2022. Okay, the system, 2 GB of RAM, we have EFI. Okay, display, then we need to add an additional hard disk. Okay, the same that we have done in this virtual machine. Okay, so we'll add an additional hard disk, which will be 50 GB. Okay, finish, and then choose the hard disk, and then we need to add another network card. Okay, and put the first network card on our network, which is NAT network. This is our internal network, and we'll add another network adapter, because this we will make team between these two network cards. Okay, so now everything is good. And the shared folders, we need to share folder or share folders between my laptop and this virtual machine. We will add 3 folders which will be shared between me and this virtual machine, or between the laptop. Okay, this is my laptop hard disk, and we'll share it with the virtual machine. So we'll add these 3 folders, which will be auto mounted as a network drive or network mapped drive, and then we will add another shared folder, or we add another folder Okay, all of this contains my scripts and my sources. Okay, we will add it. Okay, okay, this, okay, and auto mount it. So I will just stop at this phase, because so we have done this, or we are at minute 41:07. We have created the virtual machine. This will be an additional domain controller, and in the future it will replace the old domain controller. This is the primary domain controller. It will replace it. It will be the primary domain controller. It's now additional, but in the future it will be primary. So we will stop at this video. The upcoming video we will promote this server to be an additional domain controller, and then we will transfer the Vismo roles from the primary domain controller to this additional domain controller. Hope this video is informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.